Greetings, salutations, and hallucinations, O Steam Defenders. We're back again with Vaping with Uncle JoeJoe. Today we're going to take an in-depth review of the wonderful, and I do mean this is a really great tank. This is the new mutation tank from Indulgence. This is the genuine, real deal. Not a clone. This is actually an Indulgence. Woo! Okay. Not that that's any major thing. Going to go through the pros and cons. Most tanks, like say the Crown, the TFE4, these are standard, pretty much a standard tank. Nothing really to get in depth on. You unscrew it, you put it in, you swap out your coil. This is an RTA. This is a rebuildable tank atomizer. So we're going to actually take this down to the desk, break it down, look at the individual parts, how it comes apart, goes together, a little advice on wicking. I'm going to actually show you the wicking that I do. Not saying it's the best or the only or any of that. Just this is the way I do it. Had the tank for about a month and a half now. And I've kind of had to learn a few. There's a slight learning curve, which if you've ever done an RTA before, it's not going to be anything that's going to bother you much. And I'll explain all of that as we go in. But for now, let's get down to the desk and tear this puppy apart and take a look at the internals. Back in a flash. And we're back. Now we're going to do the actual in-depth. Here she is as she comes out of the mail. And you will notice a fairly nice little box here, a lot better than some. It's actual clear plastic case. You got you an extra tank right there at the front, which I absolutely love. That's a grand thing. And of course, as it says, this is an actual, authentic Indulgence MT-RTA. This is the new mutation tank. Alright, get your spare tank, which is always a good thing. Extra little 5mm tank for you. Your obligatory colored little screwdriver, and of course you got a couple more replacement grommets here. You got 2 red installed, and you have some more. You got 4 sets of screws and some more little plain, your little pieces to replace stuff with. So that's all good. Now the first thing you're going to notice is the scratches. As I pull it out of the box here and get it up here where you can actually see the scratches here. This is from everyday use. This has not been dropped. It, generally speaking, has a vape band wrapped around it, and yet I'm still having scratches all around here and on here. So the powder coating that they're using the paint is not very good. Just going to show that to you so you'll understand. You might want to go with a stainless steel because the black is starting to come, it's just coming off. Don't like that at all. Now you do come with a standard little drip tip here. Now that is a wide bore, so you do have a really good bore on it, but the problem for me is, look at that. It's extremely short. Now normally I put an extender under that to extend that up some, because to me that's just too damn short. Alright, put that over there. Here's how she opens. It is a top fill. You do have nice solid stainless steel. There is a little silicone gasket right there that keeps everything leaking and sealed up top, which is a very good thing. You lay it down, I've yet to have a leak there because of that. And of course you only have 1 slot. Now the good thing is it is a nice wide slot, so it doesn't really present a problem. This ring here, as you can see, I didn't screw it all the way back together. That comes off. Not real fond of that particular type of design, but hey, it's neither really a pro or a con. I kind of like the ones that are attached, or just leave the damn thing off permanently. I mean, what the hell? Kind of looks weird though without it, especially when it's black. And even with straight stainless steel, you're going to have it's going to be smaller at the bottom. It's just going to look funky to me, at least. Now, of course, on the next side, here's your tank. As you can see, it does come with you have 2 black ones to replace the red ones with. And I believe you can also order them in blue if you want them. And they just fit over your tank just like that. Nice Pyrex glass. Standard stuff there. Now your tank here, the chimney, I'm sorry, is a little odd. This is a 2-piece design, but this is not screwed on, it is press fitted, which, as I found out when I got mine, it wasn't seated properly. It had an actual gap on one side, and was having a few issues. Had to take it and bump it back down. And like I said, it does not screw. I tried. I screwed and spun and everything else. It is actually press fitted on there. Most of the time, this is a separate piece that screws on over your threading. But on this, they just included it basically press fitted as one piece. So all you have to do is put it on like so. And the first thing you notice right off the bat is look at the size of that particular hole. That, folks, is ginormous. That is easily twice, probably around 3 times the size of what you get in a billow 2. That is a juice canal. And if you look down the sides here, you can tell that's all juice canal out there. That is juice. I'm going to put the drip tip up here for comparison's sake, and you can kind of tell that, yeah, this thing has absolutely enormous. It kind of reminds me in a lot of ways of the Thulu as far as having these ginormous juice canals. And because of that, you're going to have a Thulu-like problem. You're going to need to fill those canals up with cotton or it's going to leak. I found that out the hard way. Passing it on so you don't have to have the incredible joy of juice going everywhere. Now what I'm running here are 3mm. This is 28 gauge N80 twisted. Those are 3mm internal diameter coils. And this thing still has hella more airflow than a billow 2 does. This thing is right up there fairly close with the Crown and the TFV4 as far as airflow, and that's running 3mm coils internal diameter. And you really need that to fit enough cotton through there to plug these juice wells up, or you're going to have to fold it a little bit to make sure this is plugged, because if they're not full, as you know, that cotton serves 2 purposes: wicking and keeping the juice from just flowing all over the place, because the weight of the juice in the tank will push it up and it will overflow. It is, of course, as you can tell, a 4-post design, which I much prefer. You can put 1 coil in, tighten down 2 screws, get it adjusted. You're done with that coil. Now you can flip it around to the other side and work on the other coil, and you don't have to really worry about this one so much. Just make sure that the leads on both are trimmed so they don't touch each other, and you're done. To me, it's a lot easier than working on a dual post system, because on the other one I have to sit here and hold this other one and fumble around, and if you mess up, this one falls out and you start all over again. And if you're clumsy like me, you welcome this. Now, of course, as you can see, you do have the adjustable post on the bottom. It is adjustable with a flathead. And this is, of course, again, an actual authentic. And I tell y'all, the only thing I've had with it, the issues are the leaking. Sometimes when I'm filling, I'll squeeze really hard on a plastic bottle and fill, and I'll get a little bit of a leakage. As long as I've got these holes plugged, everything works really well. Get ginormous amounts of vapor out of it. Absolutely ginormous. Flavor is fantastic. This is a hell of a tank. It really is. To me, this is considerably better than the billow 2. There's a few things. The leakage, as I found out, really is a wicking problem. Other than that, this tank is absolutely amazing. It's amaze boobies. It really is. It's a monster. All right, we're going to put her back together here. I'm about to put some wicking in. I'll show you what it looks like the way I wick it. I'm not going to show you the wicking process. That's boring. I'll just show you when I'm done. Be back in a second. And we are back again. As you'll notice, I've got some fat wads of cotton here. I usually cut mine. I've got a pair of fairly decent scissors here. What these allow me to do is I can get up in here. The little cheap scissors, the real cheap dollar store and Walmart scissors, you get it for a couple of bucks. Problem is out here at the edge, when you're trying to snip up close here, they just won't do it. They just don't. So go and spend a little money. Get you a little decent pair like this. These aren't terribly expensive, but they will allow you to get up in here and trim close in and basically adjust your wicking if you need it. Keep those handy. Now, as I said, you do have massive juice wells. That's why the bigger coils are actually beneficial here, because normally, like on a billow 2, you can't really fit anything above a 2mm internal. And a twisted is about it, because there's just not a lot of room in the chimney. You can fit bigger coils than that in there, but you're going to start really impeding your airflow when you do, because you have 2 things that have to go through here, juice and air. But with a 3mm internal, that's going to allow you to get you a nice fat wad of cotton like this. Because the juice wells in a billow 2, let's be honest, that you'd cut 3/4 of that away. Just be wasted. And it really can't wick a big coil like that. You just don't have enough of a juice well. This thing here, well, all right. Friend or foe, their lemon meringue did a review on this. You only tried this stuff and you like a lemon meringue pie, then all I can say is what you're waiting for. You really need to grab you a bottle of this stuff. And this is puffs. The cotton, it is puffs. It's a natural organic cotton, unbleached and all that. That's what the little specks are. No, it's not dirty. I keep mine in a nice tiny little Ziploc bag when it's not being used. Ooh, come up low on that one. Hope I ain't about to run out. That's going to be a pain in my rear endy. Now, what I'm going to do, take my 1mm here, and I cut these off, as you can tell, pretty much even with here. Just take it, boom, just straight in, bam. Those things are those are basically about somewhere around a 4mm wide juice well. 4mm is pretty doggone wide, folks. If you have precision screwdrivers, grab that big flathead. Generally speaking, that's a 3mm. Yeah, it'll bounce back and forth in there. So yeah, you're talking about a 4mm juice well. That's, I think a Bill 02's juice wells are probably about 1.5. 1.5, somewhere along in there. This mammoth motor scooter here has ginormous juice wells. It'll allow some massive amounts of juice. Again, you want your coils up a little bit. You don't want them super high because you want to keep your wicking distance between the juice and your coils minimum so the juice doesn't have as far to travel. It'll wick faster, but you also want to get some space in there, because if you don't, well, you're sitting right on top of that juice well, you're kind of impeding progress there. Now, this is the little baby of the bunch. It's, I think, the 2mm. As long as I got a 2mm space above between the coil and the deck, I'm pretty much okay with it. Now you're just going to take your tank, and you can do this just like this if you want to. It's entirely up to you, but you're going to just carefully work it down on there so you're not making a too big of a damn mess like I just did. And you're just going to screw that puppy down. Get over here where I can see what I'm doing. Now then, hopefully, if I did this right, wipe this damn thing off, because I did have a little leaking out the sides. That wasn't out the air holes, that was just leaking down the side. That's where I was screwing it over the cotton. That's the only real thing I don't like about this tank, is I'm not real extremely happy with the way they did that. But hey, each to their own. I would much rather have a two-piece chimney like the Bill 02 where you screw that piece over that. And of course, part of the problem was is the length of the cotton that hangs out over that deck. So I wound up getting a little juice spillage. That's just all part of those of you who have rebuilt tanks and drippers. Y'all know what that's like. You put a little bit on there and you're going to have a little, sometimes you're going to have a little bit go over the side. It's just part of it. Now I'm pausing here to look, because every once in a while, if I didn't do it right, I'm going to get some leakage. Check both my holes and make sure I didn't screw up. Wow, this is so exciting. Please. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. You're so excited, and you just can't hide it. Alright, that's pretty much a full tank. As you can tell, there's no leakage. She ain't leaking a drop down the air channels. All the leakage was when I pressed the tank over the cotton, squeezed some out over the sides, which happens, hell. That's all part of it. It's no big deal. She's running nice steady 0.4 ohms. I got 50 watts on her at the moment. We're going to crank that up slightly. Get 70 watts to her. Now, of course, you also want to make sure to not do what I just did and go turning the tank all over the place without putting the top back on it. But I'm old and senile, so there you go. And I'm going to put that base back on in a second, because I'm about to go back out to the widescreen. Be back in a flash. And we're back. All right. As you can see, I have put an extender on there. I picked these up at DesertVapes.com out in Arizona. Like $3 or $4, a couple dollars, $2, $3, $2, $3, $4 a piece. Pretty cheap. Thing is, they are not anywhere near as wide bore as these. They're a standard bore, which is kind of small. So what you do is I just take mine, I drill them out, run some sandcloth through there, take all the burrs and smooth it out, wash it real good. That way I get the same bore in here as I do here, so it doesn't impede anything, but it does pick things up. And it gives kind of a little stylish accent there. That's they've got them in stainless steel and another one called Rainbow, which is, you ever seen stainless steel with a rainbow texture on it? It's just a little variation of colors in there. That one's a straight stainless steel. Just adds a little accent to it. And it, again, picks that drip tip up for me. Alright, I'm going to give you the pros on the tank first, then I'll hit you with a couple. There's only a couple of little minor cons. On the pro side, massive juice wells. Oh my God. Sorry, my allergies. 24/7, 365. You have massive juice wells. You have a massive build deck, so you can put in some pretty damn big coils. Again, these are 28 gauge N80 twisted, 3mm wrapped on a 3mm coil master jig. And there's plenty of room, still got great airflow. You could probably go, if you went with a 2mm internal. Now if you're going to go with, then you will get even more, you'll get a little bit more airflow because a smaller coil will allow more air. Bit of a trade-off. If you're going to go with something really massive like some of these Cat Tracks or Alienware, something like that, from my boy Ryan over at McTwisted Coils, then I would suggest you might want to go to a 2.5. The reason being, you don't want to get too big in a tank because your chimney has to fit over the deck, and the bigger the coil, you're going to start restricting airflow. And it's kind of a balancing act there between the size and the type of coils you can put in there and the size of them. When you start getting into airflow, you have to go to a smaller diameter. Now what you'll have to do at that point, if you get down to a really smaller coil, is you're going to take that cotton as it comes out into your build deck and fold it back over and put it back in, because you want to make sure that this coil, that this hole is full, because if not, it's going to come up and it's going to leak. This thing can leak like a sieve. And it's not uncommon for me, at least, that right after I fill it, no matter how well I do the wicking, I still get a little bit of leakage out here. Nothing huge, but it will run down the side a little bit. And then it stops. And that's not terribly uncommon. So that the juice wells, massive as they are pros and cons. It's a very minor con. It's just something you got to take into account, really, so much as a con. You take into account you have the massive juice wells, you need to fill them up. You want to pack it in there so the juice can't get through the cotton, but you definitely want to make sure that hole has got cotton in it so it doesn't leak. Now you do have a lot of airflow. That 70 watts, it'll run that easy, no problemo with those massive coils in there. Now, of course, if you get into Cat Tracks, Claptons, and stuff like that, you're going to have to run higher power in order to heat those coils. You know, the more wire you've got in a coil, the more energy it's going to take to get them hot. It's just how it is. So you're going to require that. Don't get caught in the numbers game. Oh, these coils on this tank will hold 100 watts easy. Don't get caught in the numbers game. As the late great Carroll Shelby said about cars, horsepower sells cars, but torque wins races. And that's a simple fact. What you want to worry about here is don't worry about power, worry about flavor. Does it meet the requirements of you for vapor and flavor? For me, it's going to be purely vapor. I mean purely flavor. Don't care about clouds at all. Don't care how big they are. Doesn't affect me. I don't pay attention to it. I wouldn't know a giant cloud from, I don't know if my clouds are great, small, terrible, whatever. I don't know. Don't care. It's all about the flavor. And this is oh my God, with these N80 Twisteds, and I've got some McTwisted Coils coming, I hope. Ryan, if you watch this, and I know you will, because I'm going to give you a link to it. This thing will take 3mm twisted, so I'm thinking a 2.5, one of them plutonium space modulator coils of yours with the flux capacitor. Hey, all I know is you put his coils in. He's a white magician, and it's sorcery, folks. You put it in here, you heat it up, it makes magic. That's all I can tell you on coils. Now on a minor con on this is the paint job on here. This is a black. This is the black I did, the black one. The paint's scuffing off here. It's scuffing off up here around the top, and it just starts to flake off. This apparently is just straight paint instead of being a baked on powder coating, which is a lot more durable. So that's a bit of a nick. If I were you, I would recommend just go ahead and get straight stainless steel, because the black, as I said, is starting to flake already. Hopefully they're going to redo this and come out with a new paint process and bypass this that they're doing now, because it's not good in my book. Other than that, this is one hell of a great tank, people. This thing is a monster. As you can tell, airflow, vapor, and flavor production surpasses the Billow 2 from E-Ciggity and EH Pro by a mile. Again, the Billow 2 runs, their juice canals are about one little bitty things. They're about 1.5 millimeters wide, maybe 2 at the absolute outside, and I'm going to say about a 1 millimeter. And they're only about maybe 1.5 millimeters tall. They're little bitty little things. They're tiny. This thing here is probably, I'm going to guess, 4 millimeters wide, and wouldn't be surprised if that's about 3 millimeters tall. So that's a lot. That's huge. Again, like the Thulu, it's slightly prone to leakage if you don't wick it correctly. Unlike the Thulu, which would leak all by itself, you'd be sitting there halfway through a tank, and all of a sudden it would just start leaking. But then again, you don't have janky engineering here. The engineering is great. The product is great. Paint job, not so much. Once you learn how to wick it, once you get past that very small learning curve, and if you were used to doing RTAs, you've done other RTAs like Billows and the other different tanks like that, then that's not going to present much of a problem. You just have to make sure that you got enough cotton in your channels. That's it. No problem. You won't have any deal there at all. It might take you a little while to get it perfect, but once you do, it's just like anything else. It takes a slight, tiny little learning curve, and you're done. Take you a tank or two, and you'll be done with it. So if you want to pick one of these up, they're on sale pretty much everywhere. I got mine, I believe, from Vape Northwest, vapenw.com. They had a great price on it. I picked one up. In order to tell you, I'm glad I did. Slowly phasing out the Billow 2s. That's the beautiful thing about the capitalistic system in the free market, is it inspires innovation. And the Billow 2 was great when it came out. It's fantastic. But it's been surpassed. It's being surpassed. Everything out there, this will be surpassed. Everything gets surpassed with better, because everybody wants better. They'll pay for better. So the companies that are selling these tanks here, they rest on their laurels. They're going to get bypassed, and they just fade into obscurity. And unless they want to, and then they'll stay in the game, you got to come up with new product that's better, and not just looks prettier. Because let's be honest, who cares how pretty it looks? Don't get me wrong, it's nice to have a really nice looking tank like this that's really sharp, a lot of glass there, you got your red, it's a really sharp tank. But in the end, it's flavor and vapor production. That's what's going to sell the tank. Ease of operation, how good is it, how well does it last, does it hold up, does it leak, does it make good flavor and vapor? These are the things that you care about. This is one hell of a solid tank. I'm not sorry at all I bought it, and I'll tell you what, I recommend it. If you want a great tank, I mean a really good tank that really makes some serious vapor, this is an absolute cannon. Alright, go up to 80 watts here. Now, as I said, as you go up to bigger coils, Claptons, alien wires, stuff like that, it's going to require more power just to heat all the extra wire you got in there. And you might want to go with maybe a 2.5. But try it out, give it a try. If you make your own, mess around with the wire diameters. You might be able to fit what you want to fit in there. It's got a very large build deck, 4 posts, easy to build on, very easy, very roomy. All in all, it's a very forgiving tank, except for the wicking. Once you get the wicking down, you're done. You've mastered it. You're now good to go. You can vape your butt off with this thing. And yes, it's a juice hog. But with those big coils and massive juice wells, you can pretty much expect that this at the 4-cylinder. This, folks, is a V10. It's going to use up some. It's going to use up some. Oh man, flavor is banging, boy. Absolutely banging. Good tank. Love this thing. Wish it had a better paint job on it. But other than that, that's the only complaint I've got on it is the paint job isn't that great. Other than that, this is one hell of a nice tank, folks. I'm out of here. Y'all be blessed. Have yourself an absolutely fantastic year. I hope you are blessed beyond measure, and I hope you come back to see me soon. Until next time, as always, peas and cornbread.